Great. So, welcome everyone. I'm Jennifer Britton. We are at the end of November 2025, and welcome to our hot topic call for group and team coaches, somatic approaches for coaching. I hope that you'll enjoy this next half an hour together. We're going to be drawing on a lot of different bodies of work, and I want to start us off with a quote from Richard Strozzi Heckler, who really is seen as one of the sort of founding parents of this part of the coaching profession. And he wrote, "The body is not an obstacle to knowing, it is knowing." So we're going to be doing some work today with our body, with ourselves, in true, I think, sort of practice, because this is really a practice of mindfulness, of well-being, of activating our body's wisdom. We're going to be really looking at what that is. But in order to bring us in the room, because you might have come to this call and you might have been rushing around, I do want to start off with a quick mindfulness meditation. So I'm going to invite you, if you'd like, just take a comfortable seat and let your feet find the floor. And I want you to allow your breath to arrive just as it is. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. As you settle, imagine you're arriving not just in the room, but in your role as a coach. Steady, present, attuned. Let your attention drift to the places in your body that feel grounded. Your feet, your seat, your breath moving in and out. With your next inhale, soften your shoulders. With your exhale, release anything you don't need to carry into this conversation. Now gently bring your awareness to your inner landscape, the sensations, the energy, the cues. No need to judge or change anything. Just notice. Feel yourself anchoring into that quiet center where listening becomes effortless, where intuition rises, where presence does the heavy lifting. As you breathe, invite three qualities into your space: curiosity, a soft, open readiness to explore; compassion for yourself and the person you're in connection with; and clarity, the kind that comes from slowing down enough to truly see and hear. Let these qualities settle in your body, maybe as warmth in the chest, length through your spine, or ease in your jaw. Take one more slow breath in and a longer breath out. And when you're ready, bring your attention back into this space. Feel your feet again. Feel your presence, steady, grounded, and available. And if you'd like, you can set this intention. May I meet this moment with presence and care. And when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes and join us in the space. So welcome. Want to bring your voice in because group coaching is all about ourselves. What are you bringing to our space today? Who'd like to start us off? What's something you're bringing to our space today?
I can start. I'm desiring clarity and how I want to move forward with my business development. And I think this meditation that we just did is very helpful because sometimes I can just be all over the place with ideas and thoughts and what I need to do. So just being able to ground like this and just bring the breathing calm, everything, it just helps can center me so that I can think clearly and just really be more in tune with myself, with what Angela wants to build with her business instead of what other people are doing. Sometimes I can get really focused on that. So just being authentic to what I want to do with my business development.
Wonderful. Well, thank you and bring it all, right? I'm glad that created a sense of grounding. Anyone else want to share what they're bringing to our call today? Ivana.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I think I'm just bringing listening and curiosity,
Mm, love that.
listening for others to be able to share, me to share, but just a curiosity of maybe something that I haven't considered about somatic coaching.
Yeah. Or maybe a couple dots that get connected because I know
Yeah,
you do a lot of
exactly.
work in this space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to you, Steph. What are you bringing to our call today?
Well, curiosity is a big item. I am not familiar with somatic coaching as a practice. I've had a little bit of it I'm a CTI trained coach, so we
Hmm.
do embody the whole person in that training. But it's been a minute, and I know somatic coaching goes much further than that. So I'm very curious to learn.
Lovely. And I'll be the first to say we're going to skirt the surface. I am not an expert in this area yet. I think it's a layer that is so important for us to be bringing to the conversations, especially with groups, with teams. All of you have sort of given voice to, I think, what exists in the spaces that we're in, whether we're virtual, whether we're physical. That rush, the overwhelm that our clients are living in. And I think our body often holds a font of wisdom that we may not be accessing in the rest of our day. So we're going to look today at in addition to what we just did with this quick 3 minute meditation, there are a few other things that we might be doing. And I hope that today will really spark you to think about, is this an area that you want to be growing into? Because it really is yet another tendril of the coaching profession, just like group coaching would be a tendril. Somatic coaching is another tendril. And so, like Steph, I also was originally trained through CTI, really fell in enamorment of this notion of geography because, as many of you know, when I was being trained as a coach, I was taking my coach training every month. I was flying back to Toronto from my duty station where I was leading teams on the edge of a lot of change in the world, very similar to where we are in today's moment. And I think the somatic approach is like geography, just getting myself reattuned to my body and body wisdom as a leader, not just as a coach, but as a leader, was just so important in the work that I was doing in those days. And it's something that, well, I don't think this is a strength of mine, and it is a growth edge, which is why I did want to bring it to today's hot topic, because I think it's important that we realize it doesn't matter if you've been coaching for 2 weeks or 24 years, as I have been at this stage, there's always a growth edge. There's always a growth edge. And this is my continued growth edge. So I want to share a few things around, some of the science, a little bit around the science, because I think Years ago, I would hear from team coaching colleagues that I was working with as we'd go into organizations, into banks and insurance companies. I had one team coaching partner in particular who'd be like, Jen, we got to dial back the woo woo. And I don't think this is woo woo, right? Like, I think very much I say that as a leader, I say that as a scientist. There's a lot of grounding in what's so important about this. And just want to share with you a number of things. By no means is it comprehensive, but it does go aligned with our other calls. So just a reminder of where we are at the end of the year. I think one of the important things to be building in time and pause for is your vision casting. And if you weren't with us at last week's Hot Topic call, that was all about Vision 2026. And you can just Google my name and Vision 2026, grab your journal, grab a pen, and build on what we talked about actually here 2 weeks ago on creativity, writing, and journaling. I think there's a real power in picking up the pen, not typing on our keyboard, but picking up the pen and having our notebooks, feeling the paper in our hands and like just sketching out and envisioning what might be possible. So that's what I want to share. Just, this is one of many hot topics. I know our students at Group Coaching Essentials and our Team Coaching Essentials program really enjoy these as just another layer of different types of coaching we can be doing. So, a couple of definitions, right? What is somatic coaching? Because in my travels as a group and team coach trainer, I meet a lot of people who have never really heard about this. So, what is this? It's really coaching that integrates our body, our mind, and our emotion, right? Think about the interconnectivity there. And it's using a lot of different things. It may be using breath, right? Just like we became very attuned to our breath in that meditation, may also be involving some movement or posture. So I have a quick exercise that you can choose to engage with or not around our posture and movement, which really helps us start tapping into like what is available to us. With somatic coaching, as we heard from that quote, it's about the body being the instrument, as we often call it. It's a source of data, it's a source of intelligence, and we may start noticing things with our clients. I know in my career as a coach, I've had a lot of female leaders in particular who often have come to coaching because they really want to get through the blocks around their leadership. Whether it's confidence or whether it's just showing up more powerfully, what I find interesting is we've often come back to or come into the body. The coaching really hasn't been so much about talking about it, but it's actually been about practicing it. It's been about embodying how they want to show up in conversation, how they want to show up as a leader. And that's actually about physically moving so that we could also help to uncover patterns and habits, right? The body is an instrument. And how much space are we giving that instrument? My guess is, and I saw this last week as I traveled to downtown Toronto, for many professionals, you get in the car, you get on the train in the morning, you're with lots of other people. The space is maybe not as vast as it might be in other spaces. And you go to the office, you get in the elevator with maybe 20 other people in an elevator, go up and up and up, and you step into an office that's cubicle and disconnected from the natural world. I think, for many leaders, it's fitting into a tight space that may not actually align with who they are. And so, somatic coaching, I think it'd be valuable in so many spaces for those of us, and I feel very privileged to be able to work in the natural environment outside my door. I'm on the lake 365 days a year, different lakes, different bodies of water, but that helps us reconnect with the body. And I was thinking about this last week as I spent 2 days in a conference room with no windows, no connection to the outside world, up in the towers of downtown Toronto. My feet were off the ground. And I could really feel that physically, metaphorically. So somatic coaching, I think, helps us again reconnect with self. It may also help us move beyond the neck up, as it's often called, where we're just thinking, we're not actually feeling. And hopefully it involves some workaround practices that people can use every day. So I'm going to go back to a story I started sharing a few minutes ago, especially around one client in particular who I have had the chance to work with off and on multiple times over the last 20 plus years. And she was one of my first coaching clients when I opened the doors here, right? I met her through a larger organizational program. I was assigned as her coach. We were coaching together for 6 months. She was at a leadership pivot, and she got great value out of our work. And as we went to wrap up that engagement, I was saying, like what was it that you really took from our work together? And what she took was the embodied work. We were, again, she was a female leader in an organization, very male dominated industry that she was in, and she wanted to show up more powerfully in her conversations. Our work was about having her practice, having her sit differently, having her imagine going into that big boardroom and sit down or stand up and do the presentation. It was about getting through the blocks of where she might be like this, but really standing like this in her messaging. And so it was wonderful. As a young coach, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. Well, she came back a few years later also to work on leadership. She was now in an even more senior role, facing more and more sort of mindsets and challenges. But what do you think she'd taken from that work in round one? Our work around her body and how she was showing up. Well, in that next round, we deepened things. Really, she was looking at how could she be developing practices, right? What were the things like almost like a light switch she could switch on? Because now we're in 2008. What was happening in 2008? Economic downturn. She had risen to the CFO role in her organization. A lot of pressure. So these embodied practices, routines were becoming so important. And that work in 2008 really was about getting it deep in the DNA, getting it deep in the bones. So many years went by and I didn't see her again until 2020. What do you think 2020? Well, we all know what 2020 was, right? But now she was transitioning out of her organization. She had been practicing and playing with a lot of the different things we had done because there was another engagement in that 20 knots in the 2010s, total different, not leadership work, but she came back for a life work. And as we came together in 2020, what stands out for me 5 years later now is really how that work was really about now helping her transition out of leadership into life, but taking many of these practices that she had deepened and she had gone on and done even more studies and work based on just the little pings that we had done. So I share this story because I think we don't have to be experts, right? I think if I could, and I constantly looking at my own learning curves, like I think this will continue to be an area of focus for me because it really is so important. And I think my yearning to be better in this really influenced the whole framework of the group and team coaching superpowers. And so if you're not familiar with that, there's a quiz that you can take. It's been out for several years. Each one of the 5 coaching superpowers are things that we all need to embody. We need more of the grounded labyrinth energy as we do maybe of the catalytic firecracker. We can benefit from being the somatic lighthouse as well. Or not somatic lighthouse, the spiral lighthouse. But here's the thing. For those that really lead from this, they're leading from being and depth and pause. And their growth edge really is sometimes being able to go into the speed of the world right now. So this is Maggie. I'm not going to go deep into it. This is one of the deckable cards. And you can see me there because there's a little video that's attached to each of the deckable cards. But what I love about it is it really brings to life. And so, in somatic coaching, presence is physical. It's the grounding through your feet, the warmth in your chest, and these micro moments of awareness that anchor our new possibilities. So even if you haven't taken the quiz, just with thinking about what you might bring to conversations this week, I invite you to really think about how could you be cultivating more of this? And we'll do an exercise in just a moment. So thank you, Ivana's put the link to that in it. I will just say a few things about the science, because as I said, this is not woo-woo. There is really a whole deep, deep tranche of science behind this. And our body is a reservoir. It's a reservoir for energy, but it's a sink as well, right? It stores stress as well as emotion. And as we know, our nervous system will drive reaction, positive and negative. Body is wired to come back to homeostasis, but any action has a reaction. And what's beautiful about embodiment and the work and really looking at how do we further integrate and in my sort of in our work here at Potentials Realized, an exercise I like to do is getting people to think about their head, their heart, their guts, their hands, and their feet. And so, really, when we're able to sort of bring in all of these different layers, we can build our resilience and adaptability. We become more flexible. We become more willow-like or bamboo-like in that we can really bend a little bit further. And that helps us connection to self, connection to others. I think one of the things we're noticing right now is just the huge amount of cognitive overload people have been in, not just in 2025, but starting back in the pandemic. There are significant studies on the go right now around what is happening with the use of AI, which is now becoming part of the fabric of the way we work. Interestingly, this morning, it was down for a couple of hours. And I wonder what people were doing. I sort of had to go on. I thought, oh, that's okay. I don't need it really. But, like for some people, they might be like, what? So again, like if that's down, if something isn't working, how do we use a somatic approach to counterbalance? How do we use it to counterbalance some of the stress that's going on? So we're going to go into this notion of head, heart, hands, guts, and feet. I'm going to just take us back to here though, because I wanted to do an image. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw an image together. So I want you to grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. One thing to know about our hot topic calls, there's always something involved that you're going to be able to take away. And we're going to do this exercise because we're coming towards the end of the year, right? We're coming towards the end of the year. Maybe it's a new year when you're listening to this recording, but this is an opportunity to do some reflection. So what I'd like to invite you to do is in that piece of paper, maybe it's a journal. I'm actually going to do it on it in one of my current working journals so that I can come back to this and find it again. We're going to do that head, heart, hands, guts, and feet. So I'd like you to think about drawing a stick figure, or if you are an artist, you can get a little more fancy. Make sure you give that person a head, right? You can give yourself some hair. Give that stick figure a heart. My pen has run out. So you're going to put your head, your heart, your guts. You're also going to give yourself some feet and some hands. And I want you to get a little fancy on this. You can give yourself some hair. You can clothe yourself as well. You can decide for women if you want to put on some high heels or if you want to put on some comfortable runners or Birkenstocks to treat your feet. Just take a minute and draw yourself out, your head, your heart, your hands, your guts, and your feet. And to really lock this in, I'm going to invite us to practice a bit of geography. So I want us to really connect in this exercise with our best self. So that usually means that our best self is not the person sitting in the chair. It may be our future self. And we've done podcast episodes. We do a lot of coaching around future self. So I want to invite you to stand up and find that stance in your own body. You can take off your video if you'd like, if you feel more comfortable. But I want you to stand up and actually reconnect for just about 45 seconds with your future self. So I'll invite you to stand up with me. I'll leave my video on. And my future self's name is Fire. I did wear orange today, maybe in lieu of her. But I'd like you just for this next little bit, before we sit down and think about our head and our heart, our hands, our guts, and our feet, I want you to connect or reconnect with the energy of that future self version of you. You at your best. You in that space of greatest possibility. I can invite you to take about 30 seconds to connect with that future self. Feel it, embody it, and notice what's available to you from this place. When you're ready, I'll invite you to sit down, come back to your drawing, and here's the framing we're going to use. With yourself and your future self in mind, I want to invite you to think about this past year. What are some of the lessons learned that you've accumulated on your travels? Think about the head. Let's start with the head. What are some of those key lessons learned, ideas that you have accumulated as you've gone? We're going to do this relatively rapidly. I'm going to just set a timer for about a minute. You're invited to just sketch out whatever comes to mind. And again, we're starting with the head. What are your lessons learned for this year? All right, that is a minute. We're now going to move to our heart. And as you think about your heart and the lessons learned, your emotions, that space of love and connection, what have been your lessons learned from your heart space this year? Keep on writing. Thank you, Ivana. So we'll move next to our guts. And for the next minute, connect with what does our gut say? What's the intuitive take on the year and what we've learned? Take a minute and connect now with your guts. All right, we're going to now go to the hands. From that sort of doing space, your hands, what you've put into practice, what you've been getting your hands dirty with. What's the lessons learned there from your hand and energy of the doing and creating space? And our final part of the body is our feet. Where has your feet brought you this year? Where has your feet brought you, taken you? What are those parts of the journey that you can access from your travels? So, what was that exercise like? Any new insights? I know for me, I noticed very different energy. Each one took me to a different space, but there were some bridges. I would leave it at that. Any others experiences that you'd like to share? Steph.
Yeah, I found it interesting when we got to the feet. I was like, what in the world am I going to say about my feet and my journey, and I had a revelation that it's only through walking and seeing the world around you at ground level, slow and upfront and personal, do you really, experience all of it, right? As opposed to being on a train and it's whizzing by, or being in the car and it's whizzing by, which is how we tend to, using a metaphor, most of us live our lives on a high-speed train, right?
Yeah.
And walking, getting down, um, slowing it all down allows you to experience it in a way that is palatable. Um, and then that speaks to your gut, your heart, and your head. So it just all kind of flowed up from there.
I love that. So, in interest of time, I think we'll just leave your comments there. But I hope that you'll reply, like return to this. I think this is a really interesting exercise. We share it at the end of Team Coaching Essentials as a way to sort of integrate too. And there may be some interesting bridges as you look to it. So I just want to do one more quick exercise, which is really about stances. I shared that story about working with this one leadership client of mine years ago, and we used to do a lot of work around stances. I'm taking a much longer exercise now and bringing it down to micro moments. So you might not get as much, but I think there's still something. For this, we're going to stand up and we're actually going to just work through or explore three different stances. And one will be open, one will be grounded, and one will be focused. So we're going to start with the open, and you can leave your camera on, you can take it off. But for the next 45 seconds, we're going to just experience what it's like to be in an open stance. Maybe you're like a tree. Maybe you're turning to a certain part of the room or the world. I just want you to move or walk in each stance. Notice the emotional and cognitive impact. And with that open space for the next 35 seconds, just notice what's available to you in this space. All right. Next, we're going to move to the grounded. I'll invite you to physically move to a different space. I want you to connect now to a stance that is grounded. As you go there, as you connect with that grounded energy, what do you notice in terms of how you feel, what you think? You can feel free to move, but again, what is the grounded stance? And now we're going to go to the final one, which is the focus stance. Remove your body, find a space where you're focused. And again, notice your emotional and the other parts of your body. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What do you notice? And when you're ready, I'll invite you to come on back to sit down, which might be different than the stance that you just had. And I want to leave you. We won't have time to do a breakout around this, but what is the stance that's going to support you and your goals for the moment? Not for the whole day, but for whatever you're working on right now. Is there an opportunity to shift things around a little? Like I know when I went to my open stance, I went to the window and, my desk used to be at the window. So it's just a very different energy. And I think if I did calls looking out the window, it would actually shift the energy of the call and what I could bring to a group. So invitation to play around with this, right? You might anchor your stances into daily rituals. Maybe there are certain practices that you have throughout the day. Maybe there's a micro practice for stress moments, because certainly stress is everywhere. But be noticing where your energy goes, where different energies live. We just played around very quickly with the notion of open, grounded, and focused. And there may be other stances, your future self stance, power stance, compassion stance. So, invitation to explore that if it's of value. All of this is not only for leaders, it's for teams, it's for business owners, right? You might get people experimenting with practice at the beginning of meetings. Maybe it's not a meditation, but something that helps people be here now. Maybe it's a pause. We really need it for so many things, including decision making, building trust, and helping people continue to bring their best self at work. And that does involve renewal. So, as we go to transition out, thank you for coming. This is one of many calls. We're going to do a quick debrief in a moment, but try to keep these to about 30 to 40 minutes. Coming up, we've got a few more calls. So we've got next week, which is a plan with me. And if you have your 2026 planner, bring that with you. 2 weeks will hopefully be a panel. We're going to try and pull a panel together of our alumni. And then 3 weeks from now is our 22nd annual holiday party. So please join us. That'll be a 2-hour call. I'd love to go back to this, and I'm going to stop the share. We did a few things today. Again, we did our stance, we did our head, heart, hands, guts, and feet, and we started with the meditation. I'd love to just hear what was valuable for you as we went through today's hot topic call. What was something that you might carry forward as a group coach in your work or even in your one-on-one coaching? What are you going to carry forward? Ivana?
I think for me, what I carry forward is really being mindful. Like, if I look at my own experience today, like with most of these activities, I really struggled. I don't know why. And so, as a group coach, as an individual coach, really being sensitive and mindful of, normally somatics is my juice, but
Yeah.
today, whatever was in the space. And so I think as a group coach, I want to be mindful of that and sensitive to even how my experience was today and how that might inform someone and how they show up and creating that safety with that, because
Mhm.
somatics is vulnerable in and of itself. So that's what I'm taking away.
Yeah. Thank you. Other experiences of what you might carry forward, Steph.
This is a good refresher and reminder, we're so much more than the being, um, and that we are, who we are is, also what we're processing on the inside. And it's something I needed to hear for my work, my one-on-one work with my clients, which is I always do try to be mindful of how they're feeling with what they're going through and how they're processing, where they are. But it's always good to be reminded because we're human beings, not human doers, right?
Got it.
Um, so thank you.
My pleasure. Anything you want to note, Angela?
I just found very powerful the head, heart, hands, gut, and feet practice.
Mm-hmm.
That was very powerful. Some very good learnings through that. So I'm definitely going to be taking that with me.
Lovely. Well, thank you for coming into this space of exploration and experimentation. And every time I think we do things, it's a different experience, which is part of this work. I think that officially is it. So hope to see you next week or the following weeks as we move into other calls. Thanks for taking time today. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.